news, everyone.
It's Jake Ciely.
And there's a surprise in your cereal box. I'm great. Everybody else sucks. Let's get dangerous.
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's time to check the link.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list.
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is All in Football Week 13, Fantasy Football Ranks. We are here. It's time to make sure you get into the playoffs. At Chris Meaney is with me over at FTN. Is the 40% still going off, or did you miss out? It's only 20% now. Are we back to 20%?
Yeah, we're back to 20, but we could always pull some strings if you reach out and you're looking for a package. But yeah, we're back to 20. Use promo code all in there. And I'm just gonna cut you off right now before you get going anymore. Tee up the show. This is what we're here for. Let's go. Let's all wish Jake a happy birthday. This is your day.
Do we still do
today.
it at our age?
Yes, we are. It is just a number. We're all getting a little bit older, but it is your day today. So happy birthday, brother.
Oh, thank you. And I don't know if you saw, but I actually tweeted out the decorations. My wife, Nicole, she put up, and because it's like I'm turning 10 years old, and she knows me very well. Speaking of never growing up, The Mandalorian and Star Wars, and like so.
You got yourself.
I wore this T-shirt for my birthday. You can't even see the bottom part. I'm not arguing. I'm just explaining why I'm right. There you go. Is that not like the most perfect T-shirt for me?
Yeah. Absolutely, that's spot on.
Well, thank you, Meaney. I'm actually surprised Nicole didn't yell in the background when I said that. But
great job, Nicole.
Meaney says, "Great job, Nicole." As we do that live on the podcast, she said, "Thanks." Great start to the show. But yes, we were talking Week 13. Got to make sure you are in the playoffs. 20% off. Code all in is what gets it off over. Gets it off. That's bad phrasing to start the show. Also, is there anything more all in football and Jake Ciely than terrible phrasing like that? And then, of course, over the Athletic, you can actually. So the $1 a month is gone, but there are deals, and there's also gift deals where you can buy an entire year for $19.99, which is still less than $2 a month. So there you go, like Christmas gifts or something like that. Or you could just gift yourself. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Yes, do that all the time.
I know my friend was like, "How do I get on the 1 year deal if I've already got a subscription?" I was like, "If you can't figure it out yourself, I'm not going to say how to do it. Figure it out yourself." But yes, thank you everybody for the birthday wishes. But let's make sure the important stuff. We got to get to Week 13, and unfortunately, if you're trying to get into the playoffs and hoping that playoffs we're going to come with Jonathan Taylor, they ain't. Yeah, one of the worst timings of all. Jonathan Taylor out with surgery. Anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. There's the timetable right there. 13, 14, definitely. 15, maybe. 16, maybe. Best case scenario for us, or I guess worst case scenario is you don't even get him till the championship game. Actually, worst case is he doesn't even show up for the rest of the year. Right. And they're just for their playoffs. For our playoffs, you might get him for 2 weeks, maybe. So now it's Zach Moss time. Do not be that person. I will ban you from the show. If you're in the comments, I already came for the person on Twitter who said it. Do not come with the "not in my league, Zach Moss, blah, 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 50%. He's not my league. You're stupid if he's in your league." There's a lot of people.
50% is half, right? That's too low. Yeah.
It's insane. But people had to do these things. You know, people are sending rosters, and I'm seeing they're like, congratulations to you and everybody listening to us who have stacked rosters. And Zach Moss ended up being the worst that you could possibly cut, which again, of course, nobody trades with you, but a lot of teams did have to cut Zach Moss during buys, during other injuries. There are people that didn't get slapped on the IR. There's some leagues that quantify whether it's actual IR or just out being allowed to put on IR. Like I'm the CBS league with Jamie with the IDP one.
Right.
You can't put them on IR unless they are actually on the IR. So you're kind of stuck. I don't like it. You know me, as many injury spots as you need because I don't like adding terrible decisions to bad luck. It's not your fault. Yeah. Anyway, that being said, Zach Moss, I already have him top 10. Like this is, for everybody that doesn't know, I'm going to go back to it real quick. I'm going to pull up the game log because I actually put that in my article this week. So Zach Moss starting week 2, because it wasn't week 1, if everybody remembers, it wasn't him in week 1, but starting in week 2, and then the 2 games as soon as Jonathan Taylor came back, these were his running back finishes. You ready for this? 10, 4, 21, 2, and 9 in those 5 weeks. And those last 2 and 9 were with Jonathan Taylor. After that, even with Jonathan Taylor, 30, 14, 49, 70, which is miserable, of course, but 31. So 4 of those 5 games are usable. Actually, 3 of those 5 were startable in most leagues. Right back inside the top 10. I don't care that he's facing the Titans. Honestly, Meaney, like I have him in the conversation. You told me Achan, which we're going to talk about, is out this week. I think he could be in the conversation of Raheem Mostert and Achan. You want to know why? Because I go like this in my rankings. You ready for this? McCaffrey, ETN, Kyron Williams, Kamara, Zach Moss.
Oh,
He's
baby.
number 5.
I mean, I'm here for it. You mentioned the Titans. He already torched them earlier. He had 23 for $165 and 2 touchdowns and caught 2 passes for 30 yards. It's all about volume. It's, and he's going to get it. He's going to get it. It's also another league too, NFL.com leagues. Like you weren't able to put guys on IR there either, or like out unless they're physically on IR. So across the board, he was owned. I mean, his ownership is only at 78% in Yahoo. I get it. Like he's owned in a lot of competitive leagues, but he was still out there in half of the leagues in Yahoo. I saw Chris Towers tweet in CBS that his ownership he's widely available over there in ESPN too. And he's just like the next man up. We've been talking about those kind of guys. Hopefully you stash where you could. And if not, and you're able to get him, then yeah, he's an RB1 based on volume. The Colts have something to play for in the playoffs. And he was catching passes, which I like too. And he had 2 catches on 3 targets last week as well. But I could see where people dropped him, like Carolina 7 for 26, 1 for 2 in week 10 against the Pats, and then had the bye. Yeah. So I understand like if you moved on from him, but if you got him, you have yourself, I don't want to say a league winner, but you got yourself somebody that if he's your flex, if you're putting him in your lineup as your flex, man, you're good to go here these next couple weeks.
How about the people that are going to be possibly riding to championships on Kyron Williams and Zach Moss? That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of great late round targets, waiver wire stuff like Tank Dell. I know Puka Nacua has been quiet.
To be clear,
like
I want to like what I just said might have sounded like I was a proponent for 0 RB. I'm still not. I'm still not 0 RB. Christian McCaffrey was my number 1, and people were like, "Well, I'm surprised you had him over Jefferson." And I didn't expect Jefferson to get hurt. And Jefferson at the time was neck and neck with Christian McCaffrey. Like he was over 20 points per game.
He would have been. He would have
been right there too. But ETN worked. Kamara worked if you waited. Tony Pollard has been frustrating. He hasn't been top 5 like people wanted, but he's worked. I'm trying to think like Austin Eckler. Probably a little bit of a disappointment. Saquon Barkley, even with the injuries, I mean, he had 1 bad game with that, but even with the quarterback situation, he's been an RB1. Bijan Robinson is a RB1. He's just not RB2 or 3 like people wanted.
And he may just be at the end of the year, but the problem is the slow start. I tweeted that out. I said Bijan is going to end up finishing as like RB2 or RB3 if this continues. And I had a lot of pushback with just like, well, I'm going to win consolation brackets because of it. But like, not everybody will. Like sometimes you can overcome slow starts. It's hard to overcome the injuries like Eckler, like Nick Chubb, like these guys, especially if you went hero RB. It's really hard to overcome that.
That's where the cliche thing kind of came in as hero RB instead of 0 RB is the 1 running back in the first 2 rounds or so. And of course, the other people like Rachaad White has worked. So it can go both ways, but this is why. This is like you get the hero. Even if it goes sideways, you target something we talked about in the preseason is the Rachaad Whites of the world, is, like Jahmyr Gibbs rookies, although Gibbs at the time was going way too expensive. But Pacheco, you and I were on Pacheco, names like that. So point being, you can do both. So I didn't want it to sound like I'm like, haha, this is what happens when you don't have to draft running backs because, I mean, I'm looking at the top 10. There's still a lot of big names in there. And I wanted to talk about the one other one that I brought up in there. So we're on the Zach Moss. Actually, call me crazy. I would play Zach Moss over Tony Pollard. Like that's... I know the one person is getting all of the work. I know the other person is still splitting. And even though he does finally have some touchdowns, it's still that split with Rico Dowdle. Dak Prescott is throwing. Dak Prescott's like the best quarterback in the league since, week 5?
Yeah, he's getting a lot of MVP buzz from the media this week as well. I mean, yeah, his numbers are great. I mean, his QBR is number 1. His QBR against the blitz, number 1. He's been fantastic. Yeah, I agree. Myles Garrett.
It'll never happen. Defensive player ever top 3.
But I feel like if we're just again, this is a conversation for another day, but most valuable to the team, it's got to be Myles Garrett, right? It has to be Myles Garrett. The Eagles got playmakers on both sides of the football. The Niners have playmakers all over the field, and I'm not crazy about Mahomes this season, but yeah, Myles Garrett to me has been the most valuable player to his team. I mean, the Browns are sitting in a playoff spot with 7 wins, and are they playing Joe Flacco this week? I don't know. Like it's pretty crazy in Cleveland right now. What was I going to say? I forget it now.
I don't know.
Dak. Dak. What's important for Dak? Just wait. One more thing. Dak, and at 9-1, it may be worth a sprinkle. He hasn't beaten anybody good yet. But if they say they beat the Eagles next week, and all of a sudden they're tied for first in the division, or they have the division, whatever it is, and the way he finishes up, maybe against I think Buffalo, I think the Chargers, and there's another tough team in there, the Lions, and if they win out, then he'll get the respect that he deserves. And he has had a really good season.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. And this is completely sidebarring here because I'm not worried about week 13 ranks. But because of that, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, those are the next 4 games. Those are all 4 scary offenses. Would you move out from the Cowboys defense? Because here's my answer. This is what I keep telling people.
I do have
if you can get Jacksonville, do it. If you can get Kansas City, probably too late for that. Do it. If you can get defenses like that, if you can get a top 10 defense, yes. But if you're playing like drop the Cowboys and take a flyer on, hey, your Eagles. The Eagles defense has kind of been back and forth in fantasy. Or if it's like, maybe I can go pick up some flyers and play week to week like the Patriots this week and the Chargers next week. Like those situations, I would just risk and hold the Cowboys because they're that good. But if I could get away from like a top 10 defense like I was talking about, I would make that swap because that is a terrible 4-game stretch for a defense.
It is. It's actually the toughest remaining schedule for a team, and is Bland going to have a pick 6? I don't know. Maybe. Seems like it has one every other game. But the way that they can dial up pressure and get out, like Tua showed us
he has a better receiving season than Quentin Johnston.
My goodness,
and Marvin Mims.
I was actually looking at one of my dynasty leagues last night. I play in a few of them, and I have some shares of Addison. I have some shares of Flowers, but I wish I just stayed true to my rankings. In the one league that I have Quentin Johnson, I was just like, you know what? I'll take Quentin Johnson in this one because I did Flowers, I did Addison. And it's like, you know what? I wish that I just did Flowers. It's way too early to write him off, but what a massive gap at the moment between Addison, Flowers, and then to Johnson.
Everybody else.
But the Cowboys will dial up some pressure. I would play them. I think what you said is perfect with some of those average defenses in good spots, but the way that they can dial up pressure and make life difficult for Tua, who hasn't shown us that he can deal with pressure in his face, and the way that some of those playmakers are just making plays, I think you just rolled them out.
So then let's talk about that game. Seattle is in Dallas. Likely no Kenneth Walker. So first part, what are you doing with Zach Charbonnet? This is unfortunately for Zach Charbonnet. It's like, here's your chance. You get to face terrible defenses. Good luck, buddy. This is this is basically what Arizona did with Clayton Tune, but not intentionally. So
not intentionally, yeah.
I have Zach Charbonnet still as a fringe RB2. He's right in the conversation with Jerome Ford and Joe Mixon, who we need to talk about in a second. For upside, I'd even consider Achane, but you can't wait on that decision because you have to wait for Thursday Night Football. So Charbonnet, does he even make the RB2 list? I feel like he kind of has to, even though there's only Barkley and Josh Jacobs that are definitive top 10, top 15 running backs this week. What do you do with Charbonnet? Do you start him against Dallas? Here's one, Charbonnet or A.J. Dillon with the assumption that it looks like it's no Aaron Jones again?
I think I would go with Charbonnet there. I really do like what's happening with the Green Bay Packers over the past couple of weeks, but I think I would take Charbonnet. They're both in the same range for me, low on RB2s. I think the only guy that I have ahead of him in your rankings, and maybe I'm just buying into last week too much, is Najee Harris. I would start both Steelers against the Arizona
both Steelers
Cardinals, yeah, and I actually have Najee ahead of Jalen for the first time in a while. Yeah.
All right, well then,
just a touch.
Pause. We're gonna come back to that.
Yeah.
But
more run, closed out the game, looked better. Yeah, we'll get back to it.
Well, I was gonna say, so were they both over AJ Dillon or both over both?
Both over both. Yeah, I'm looking right now. I have them.
So
all,
you go Harris,
clustered.
Warren, Charbonnet, Dillon.
Yep, it's just like that. I'm a little bit worried about Achane. I don't know if people should just play him because of the couple games that he looked awesome. I think that if you're an owner,
here's what I said.
Want him to sit a week.
Achane returns. Raheem Mostert's still an RB1. I'm not knocking him at I would knock him down from 7 to maybe 10 or 11. but he's still an RB1.
But he's still
then
the guy over Achane too.
I have Achane as a fringe RB2 with upside, but risk. This is like boom or bust. Like you could get Achane RB1. You could get Achane last week and be like, oh man, that sucked. Even if he plays the full game, you could get Keaton Mitchell of what we saw 2 games ago, and everybody's like, what the hell? I thought Keaton Mitchell was going to be fun. I'm like, dude, he's only going to get 8 touches. Like that's what happens. Yeah. That's the downside. If there is no Achane, I say Jeff Wilson is an RB3. I think
I agree.
Okay. So I'm with you. I think Achane's risky. I have him just as a fringe RB2. Actually, he's 24, mostly because he's also facing Washington, which let's talk about that game real quick, and then we'll come back to the Steelers. I love some Sam Howell. Love him. Like, I am all over some Sam Howell this week if you can, because he's going to throw 50 bajillion times. This is against the Dolphins. This is exactly what you want. Something I started doing this week, I kind of wish I would have thought about this earlier in the year, but I started looking at 2 different things. I was looking at teams for scoring differential throughout the game for the first. You know how this happened? It happened because everybody started talking about that the Eagles are 5-0 when losing at halftime, and then the only team to do that. Nobody else even has an over 500 record. And then it started getting me thinking as like some game scripts of like point differentials at halves and stuff like that. And so I was actually looking at this. The Dolphins have the 8th highest point differential in the first half, plus 30, right? Still top 10, not best, not Cowboys, but it's up there. Commanders are 5th lowest, minus 62. What does that point to? A lot of passing, which is why I think Antonio Gibson's an interesting play, which this is where I was going with this. Antonio Gibson or Achane. Because I think that's a conversation you could have yourself, because I feel like that's floor versus ceiling, and you could argue that Gibson's the better play given what he was doing even before this.
Yeah, you could. And one thing I will say is Miami's defense, I mean, at the start of the season, they gave up so many plays and passing yards, and it made sense, right? Because they just score so many points and teams are chucking on them, like you just said. But over the past couple of weeks, like ever since Jalen Ramsey came back, it's been one of the better secondaries in football with Ramsey and Xavier and Howard. They're making plays, and I think that may benefit a guy like Gibson. I think it may benefit a guy like Curtis Samuel. I don't know how much we should buy into the 12 targets, 9 grabs, 100 yards, but he may actually be...
You're going where I was going next.
He may actually be
Are you worried about Terry McLaurin?
Yes, I am worried about Terry.
And then would you play Curtis Samuel, who's essentially, we said it for a long time. I was saying Michael Thomas is Curtis Samuel, is Demario Douglas. Yeah. Like they're the same guys. They're all, like, I guess Michael Thomas is hurt now, but they're all that 3-4 guys who are going to get you 5 for 60 something every single week. There might be a little variance in between there, but solid plays. But that's the bigger one I want to talk about. As much as we can like Sam Howell, like Antonio Gibson, I have concerns for Brian Robinson. Like, I knocked him down because this can go sideways. So I actually have Brian Robinson at 19. He's mid to low RB2. And then Terry McLaurin was the one that I had the biggest problem with, because let's talk about this at wide receiver. By the way, I see a lot of comments this week. We're going to do some questions towards the end, so if you stick around, because we're at that time of year where a lot of the stuff, I'm kind of picking out the bigger news stuff. You know this at point. We're not going to be like, do I play Nico Collins? Bad matchup. You're playing Nico Collins anyway. But that's actually kind of my point where I was about to go, Meaney. This is a terrible week for wide receiver. Like, wide receiver, I'm going right down the list. And I get Deebo Samuel at 12 against your Eagles because slot wide receiver should do some damage. I like Ayuk still, actually almost back-to-back for me. But as soon as you get to 13, your boy, Devonta Smith, against the 49ers. And what if Goddard's back? That ruins him. I mean, it's not going to be like, don't play him. But here's where we're going after this. Jamar Chase, hurt. Like, not hurt, but like he's playing through pain. And he has Jake Browning, and he's got the Jaguars. Nico Collins against the Broncos, who've been playing great defense. Puka Nacua, who's fallen off, gets the Browns. Hopkins, okay, cool. Sutton, okay, cool. Cooper Kupp, hurt. Browns. McLaurin, potentially Jalen Ramsey. Garrett Wilson, his quarterback's trash. Adam Thielen, hasn't done anything in weeks. Christian Kirk. I mean, like, you see what I'm going with here? It's like, as soon as you get past 12, it's like, oh my God. Like, can we just rank all of them at the same spot from 13 to 40? I don't know. Like, it's a bad week to figure out wide receivers.
And not just that. I mean, Flowers finally had a good game. You can't play him. Diggs has got the bye. DJ Moore's got the bye. Devontae Adams, Addison. It's a lot of good wide receivers that are on bye. So you could, I mean, Chris Olave may not play this week due to a concussion. He was on.
I don't think he does because it's a second concussion. Like, if there was a chance, we've only had 2. We've talked about Brock Purdy and then the other one, which we were shocked that he actually came back and played. That I can't think of who it was, but there.
I don't know. I always think
it was somebody that I was surprised that he came back. And he actually came back on a 6-day week instead of a 7. Anyway, point being, this is Olave's second concussion, and I'm just going to. Oh, it was Madison. You're right. There you go. Is this? I'm going off Twitter doctors on this one as I'm blooming here. Woo! Jesus coming for me. Goodbye. See you guys.
Fading into the
I'm
sun.
out on my birthday. As Barkley comes over here, is that the second concussion? I don't think it's Olave, and Rashid is already doubtful, so we're looking at A.T. Perry. So I'm with you on that. No Olave.
Yeah, A.T. Perry. I don't know, man. I don't. I can't even trust him. Is he going to get?
Oh,
more
I have
than
A.T.
2
Perry at
targets?
44.
Yeah, some Saints buddy of mine started sending me videos of Lynn Bowden. I was just like, get out of here. Like an end
Were they
around
from the
carry.
Dolphins or the Raiders?
It was the Raiders key and an end around carry last week, and I was just like, oh wow, I forgot about him. But
New
yeah,
Debo Samuel.
I think Curtis is a decent, especially in PPR leagues. I think he's it seems risky, of course, especially if you need wins. Like, oh, you're rolling up Curtis Samuel. Are you chasing on last week? But I think everything applies. Everything applies. I think the analysis is right, and I think he's worthy of a flex play.
All right, well, here, I was going to do some toss-ups. Make it more difficult for you. Because it's my birthday, I'll do whatever I want. We're going to make it a double toss-up for you. You ready? So I'm going to do Samuel and Perry versus. So you don't have to say they're both better or they're both worse. I mean, you could just basically rank the three every single time. But I know you have Perry behind Samuel.
I do.
But let's put all these names in. Perry, Samuel, and Justin Watson.
So what? Like, just kind of rank them? I watch
Just like what would be your favorite of the three?
I think Samuel would be my favorite of the three. I know I was really pumping Watson's tires last week. Thank goodness he had a touchdown. I thought for sure he'd have a couple grabs. He still had a few targets, but it was really nice to see Rashid Rice just get fed. And hopefully that continues. So I mean,
this is the kind of week we're talking about. Average Rashid Rice all the way inside the top 30.
Yeah, let's go. It's time now, right? We've been talking about him as a stash. Hold him, flex play when you can. Some of the matchups are great. Yak Monster, touchdowns, and getting red zone targets. And I just wondered why they didn't give him the ball more. And maybe that was a sign of things to come down the stretch. He could actually be a league winner with like Mahomes needing somebody to step up. I think Perry's so risky, but I don't know, man. Like, who's going to catch passes there?
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I mean, Taysom Hill's
take all the Taysom Hill overs.
Maybe you're starting 2 tight ends this week if you have a top 5 tight end and you have Hill.
You can honestly start 2 tight ends from the Saints: Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill.
Yeah, you can.
You talk about who's going to catch passes.
Kamara's going to catch a bunch, and Taysom's
I was looking yesterday. I was actually annoyed. I'm looking for a touchdown prop in Juwan Johnson. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, put it out there.
Not out yet, I don't think, but it's probably going to be a pretty good one, 5-1.
I guess I don't know. I'm going to slap that together with some Derrick Henry. By the way, Derrick Henry. Just so you know, I don't just randomly while we're talking about him, we're going to come back to this. But I want to go back to the stat that I found out for Derrick Henry, and of course it makes sense because he has touchdowns in these games. But the yards have also been there. So in games with a rushing touchdown for Derrick Henry, 22 fantasy points per game. Without, 7.4. Now the math doesn't add up. It's not just that's actually a 15-point difference. That's over 2 touchdowns difference. So it's not just the touchdown. Point being, here's the good news: Colts, 11 rushing touchdowns to running backs, 5th most in the league. By the way, so Derrick Henry, I like that one too. To come back to this, A.T. Perry, Curtis Samuel, or George Pickens?
You know what? I'm gonna go Pickens. I'm gonna take the ceiling of Pickens with those 2 guys. There wasn't a huge amount of difference in the Steelers' offense. Of course, they had 400 yards for the first time in 59 games, but they did have 6 plays of 20-plus yards. They threw the ball in the middle of the field. Most of those came
from Warren Harris.
Most of them were Pat Freiermuth, right, in the middle of the field. But I did see a couple shots down the field to Pickens, which I liked seeing, and it is against Arizona. So I'll risk that one. I see Kyle with the question, and the other one is down. Like, I know we'll get to them later on. I do like downs over both of those guys, but I would lean with the ceiling here. I do feel at the same time I feel like Pittsburgh will just run all over Arizona, but I'm gonna go with Pickens.
Okay, then let's see if we can get any more, and then we'll move on to the next piece here. How about here's one. Thursday night, you have to make this decision: Brandon Cooks, Curtis Samuel, or A.T. Perry.
And I really like where Cooks is headed. I really like from Cooks. I know. I was ripping him on this show for, what are we doing? Holding on to Cooks, not doing anything. But over the last 5 weeks, he talked about Dak. He's fighting the end zone. man, Dak's playing some really good football, taking some shots. I'm going to go with Brendan Cooks in that spot. Yeah, I think the ceiling is kind of high. I think there's more touchdown equity potentially, like an upside for him to score. Curtis Samuel, like, I don't know. You need like some sort of end around in the red zone or something. Like, you take a shot.
So
with
last
Cooks.
one. Here we go. Last one. A.T. Perry, Curtis Samuel, which I just feel like Perry's not the answer to any of these. So Perry, Samuel Perry. Samuel Perry sounds cooler. Samuel Perry or Christian Watson.
Oh, man. Is he back? Is he here? I don't know. Is he going to get Sneed?
I like how you just Is he back? I don't know.
I don't know if he's back. I'd love to see him back. He's probably going to win me a bunch of consolation brackets again this year. My goodness. I held on to him in a few spots. Of course, he was on my bench last week.
I just love it.
I can't. I don't really want to start him. I don't know. Like, it's hard to really project what you're going to get from Christian Watson. But Jordan Love is playing really good football. I still like Jaden Reed more than Christian Watson. He's had 18 touches over the last couple games. He's getting some end arounds.
Backfield.
Yeah, so I would play him. I think he's safer. But you saw the ceiling on full display last week. This is why, we like Christian Watson. Like, he's a touchdown threat. He's got sneaky speed, a big body. That first play of the game, on Thanksgiving, they took a shot to him down the field. I think I'd play him over A.T. Perry.
A.T. Perry? I'll give you A.T. Perry.
But
I don't know if I'll go Chris Samuel. Would you start him over Romeo Dobbs?
I would.
I go Reed, Dobbs, Watson.
That's what I did last week, and then I didn't see a whole lot.
Okay, but sure. But here's your argument. Okay, no, I know, I get it. This is the chasing your tails. Basically, the situation of past years with running back situations in like the Dolphins and the Bills and teams like that, which isn't the case anymore. But here's the thing. First game this year with over 3 receptions. First one. He didn't have 3 receptions. He didn't have 4. This is first. He had 5 in this one. He didn't even have 4 the rest of the year. It was only his second game with over 37 yards.
Yeah.
He had 91 in week 2 and then 37 the rest of the year. Like,
yeah.
I'm not ready to buy him yet.
I know. I've watched every snap, and part of it has been on Love. He's underthrown him several times. But it's just the one game. Plus, this Kansas City defense is absolutely legit. And if he has to deal with Sneed, that's a no-go for me.
I actually expect
what he did to AJ
last week. Yeah,
he did, but he didn't. Yeah, I know it was a weird game from him, and he wasn't fully on Adams. But they made it a case for him to fall around AJ Brown. It's almost like, you know what, Adams, you can do whatever you want. You're not going to win this game anyways. Like, so
I'll be curious to see who's got. You know what? That might be something to go back. But, tune in later this week when I might update the rankings. Well, I will update the rankings. I'm going to go back and then watch some more snaps over the past couple weeks to see who plays the deepest in this kind of scenario, because that would be the Christian Watt. Is it Sneed or is it somebody else? That's worth watching.
It is worth. I think it might be Sneed.
Because there's some of the things you can watch the games and kind of oh, wait, I wasn't really paying attention to that aspect. Let's quick rapid fire through some of these running backs. So we can get to questions, like I said, for everybody, because I do want to help out some questions. These are some easy decisions. Stevenson, don't even talk about it. He's finally rolling. Steven season is here, finally. Just go ahead and start him.
Took some time. Yeah.
Yes, it did. Here's the question.
Chargers
running back.
Brutal, my goodness.
Oh, I know. It's so good. Like, I had Stevenson at 15. I'm like, I kind of want to put him higher. But the problem is Pacheco, Henry, David
I like
Montgomery,
where you have him.
Bijan.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
How am I still the highest on David Montgomery?
Yeah, man, people just don't like Montgomery, but it's like every week, like, he just scores and he's the lead. It's is what it is. Man.
You want this
Gibbs
stat?
Looks better, but Montgomery's on the field.
Well, it's not even just them. It's the freaking Lions offensive line, because here's what you get. David Montgomery, this is beyond absurd. So yards after contact for David Montgomery is 4.3. That's best in the league, only behind Keaton Mitchell somehow. I mean, when you rip up a bunch. But Jalen Warren's at 5.0, by the way. Jahmyr Gibbs is 21st at 3.0. And the part, so for yards after contact aren't always the running back. It's not always off the offensive line. It's both, because, these grades that you get yards after contact, I guess not a grade, but the stat, like if I slap my arm against your chest, that might be an attempted tackle to some people, and some people it might not be. Really squaring up is going to be a difference. If you get the offensive line doesn't do a lot for you and you get squared up and you hit the dude head on, good chance you're not breaking that tackle. If they're open in lanes so they only get an arm on you, good chance you are. But here's where I wanted to go the other way. They're tied for first. Montgomery and Gibbs are tied for first in the league. This is an insane number. Think about this. They're averaging 2.5 yards before contact.
Yeah.
Before. Joe Mixon averaged 2.2 yards per carry last week.
Yeah.
They got 2.5 yards before they were even touched on the season. This is insane.
It is insane, and it's like the Najee stat that we talked about on Sirius on our show on Saturday was like Najee was getting hit behind the line 34% of the time on like early downs. Like that stuff is wild to me.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone's so hard on Najee, and I get it. Warren looks better, he looks fresher, but the offensive line is key. It's like Carolina. I want to give a little bit of a pass to Bryce Young at times because he is just hit too much. If you don't have an offensive line that can give you some time to move the football, to run the rock, Detroit's got one of the better offensive lines in football, and it does create like Montgomery doesn't look fantastic. He would if you put him on the Bears or you put him on the Panthers,
you swap Najee Harris for David Montgomery. We're talking about Najee Harris as a top 10, top 12 running back.
he would have 10 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards. Yeah,
I keep
absolutely
making so
agree.
many apologies for Najee Harris. Like, again, Jalen Warren's better. I just don't think Najee Harris is as trash as people want him to be. Like,
I
people
don't
just
think
want
so
to
either.
like kick him out of the league. And be
I know.
like, somebody was like, I need to buy you a Najee Harris Funko Pop. And I'm like,
Hey, man, he
it's
had
not
99
that.
yards last week and 15
I
carries.
know.
Like, it's a pretty good game for him and an encouraging game if you're a Steelers fan.
It is.
Is this the lowest you ranked Eckler? I mean, you're playing him, but this was the lowest I think I've ever ranked him.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not
feel
even
good
really,
putting him in my top 10.
No, I know you're asking about but I'm like running through like even Eckler. I mean, you could make an argument he should be behind both lines. You can make an argument behind
what if
Bijan
you
and this-
didn't have a flex spot and you had Kyron and Zach Moss?
You're benching Austin Eckler.
Oh my god!
Sometimes you
Yeah.
gotta take the name off. You gotta
Yep.
I mean, I'm looking
I got
down
bad
this
vibes
list.
about him too. I wonder if he's gonna just step away
Shut it
or they
down?
shut him down because he wants a contract, right? He's not playing through any, and I know he's not 100%.
And that's the thing; he doesn't look right the past 2 weeks. So, I think you could make an argument he should be lower more. So, like the Derrick Henry conversation about the touchdown, like if he doesn't score, it's probably going to be a miserable game because even with 2 touchdowns last week, what do you still have like 70 yards on like a
nothing.
boatload of carries? So, I think Eckler kind of in that conversation. Way to make me think even more about Austin Eckler. But anyway, to come back to this, the Falcons situation is more. I want to talk about a couple of these. Tyler Algier. How playable is here? Because here's one. So now to go back to the stats that I was pulling up. The other one I thought that I went down this rabbit hole and I got interested with, and I actually included this with a couple teams because there was a couple outliers that I was like, ooh, this is interesting. It's the difference in carries, yards per carry, and yards per catch, and yards per attempt. All these yards. All those when you're up by 7 or more, so up by a touchdown or more, or when you're down by 7 or more. Because a lot of those assumptions come into play. They're going to pass. The reason I went down this rabbit hole is actually Joe Mixon. I was worried that Joe Mixon in bad game scripts wasn't going to get carries. And it turns out Joe Mixon's almost dead even. So still concerning because we just saw how miserable it could be last week with Jake Browning. But his touches don't really vary very much. Very much. So I was kind of looking at this +7, -7 because we have these assumptions for game scripts and like this. So to go to this one with the Falcons, so they're very run happy when they're close or leading. Bijan Robinson actually averages almost 2 more yards per carry when they're up by a touchdown or more. It's the 8th biggest gap to when being down by 7 or more of all running backs. This also comes into play with Tyler Algier. Algier is actually almost even, but his touches go up when they're up by 7 or more. So is Algier in play as a solid RB3, potentially even RB2 if you know you're getting floor?
Flex. I don't know if I'll go as high
Flex?
as 2, but flex. My one thinking is like how much is they're definitely going to be in the game. I don't know if they're going to be
That's the
leading
point.
by significantly, but yeah, to your point, they're not going to be down by more
Tyler
than a
Algier
touchdown, so
or
they'll lean
Devin
on him a
Singletary?
bit. I would play Singletary. I'll play Singletary. Yeah. Broncos. I know the Broncos have turned the corner a little bit defensively. Certainly have. But I would play Singletary. I see your point. I think he's a flex play.
Algier or Connor? Now that Michael Carter's taken 40% of the work. Well, I'm assuming it's going to bump up a little bit. It was like 35 in this first
I still
real
think
game.
I'd play Connor. I still think I'd play
Really?
Connor there. Yeah. I mean, you could get an
Against
Algier
Pittsburgh?
touchdown. That's the best thing. What do you get? 10 carries, maybe he gets 40 yards and a
This
touchdown.
is our boy from
maybe.
last year. We rode Algier to championships last year.
Did we ever, man? 1,000 yards and like 200 touches. I mean, he's a good back. He really is a good back. I think that they've made the switch, officially made the switch. But if they are up in this game, which they probably will be, even though it's, the Jets defense is really good, they'll probably lean on Algier to close out the game. I have seen that, just like you said. But
Okay,
it's not
so
enough for
the
me
one-
to play with confidence.
The one to go back to before we talk some wide receivers and then some questions for everybody is I was surprised that I wasn't lower than a lot of people than I originally thought I would be when I ranked Joe Mixon at 23. I was expecting that to be like super low compared, and apparently a lot of people are on the same page because this is pretty indicative of a lot. And I'm looking right behind him, and I think there's a case to be made for your Steelers. I promise we're coming back to
I'll
it.
take 'em.
I know I'm taking Warren over Joe Mixon, but would you go Najee Harris? Well, see, that's the difference.
Yeah.
I guess you're
I'm
going
playing
both
both.
because you have Harris over. Explain your
playing
argument
both.
for Harris over Warren real quick, by the way.
It's a little bit of what I saw last week, but it's also I still feel like he's the goal line back. I think this is still a split. It's a split. Warren looks better, but the lead seems to be Najee. Warren put the ball on the ground last week, and Najee got more carries. He closed out the game for them. This is a good spot for both of these running backs. I think it's going to continue to be a split. They're both going to get double-digit carries. They had the exact same amount of
You
carries
should do it
last
in
week.
Admiral Akbar voice. It's a split.
What we've seen is what we're gonna get, but I think like the change, the switch with the OC has opened up this offense just a little bit more, and I think having Pat Freiermuth there does help things a little bit for both running backs. So I will say that the biggest reason is when they're inside the 5, I think Najee's getting the ball.
I'm trying to I'm pulling this up right now to see what your truth is behind. I'm pulling up the Pittsburgh Steelers goal line and goal to go attempts while you were talking just to see. Do you want only week 12 or do you want on the season? Because I'm curious.
Well, one on the season.
You want on the season? All right, let me X out all the weeks. Thank you, True Media, for this. Okay.
Yeah.
So goal to go rush attempts. What would be your guess? I'll tell you there's 10 for the team. What would be your guess on that
My
split?
guess is Najee has 6.
Nope.
More?
Try again.
Less. Doesn't have
I'm not
less.
even going to tell you. I'm just going to say nope. I'm just going to say
He's got 8.
9.
He's
Warren
got
has 1.
Most of them. I knew that. Like, why am I second guessing myself? I know he's got a bulk of them. 90%.
How
of
about
them, right?
how about goal line rush? Which for everybody out there, the differentiation between that is goal to go is 10 to go. Like I'm not trying to talk down anybody. Some
Yeah.
people might not know. Goal to go is inside the 10. Goal line is inside the 5. So what do you think the split? There's 5 for the team. This should be an easy one to guess because
He's
I
got
just
them all.
told you. No, 4-1. It's 4-1. So
I did see Jalen have one. I did see. I can picture the one touchdown he had inside the red zone, but I think it was like 2 of them. One inside the 10, and then another one I thought was just right around the red zone, and he ran it in, and he looked so good. And I was like, "Oh no, he's never touching the field again." But hey, both of these guys.
all right. And it's against Arizona, so there's your point there. All right, wide receivers, real quick for Thursday Night Football. How far down are you going with DK Lockett? DK Lockett? DK Lockett, there you go.
Put
DK
them
Metcalf
together.
and Tyler Lockett.
If they were together, I don't know. They'd be a wide receiver 1 for me this week. I don't think so.
If they were together, they still might not be a wide receiver 1 on the season. I'm curious on their.
This is what I'm
I think
saying.
What are their points per game? Oh, now you got me looking at something like stupid random. That's not even going to make sense or matter to anybody. DK Metcalf is at 10.7. Tyler Lockett is at 9.9. So 20.6. They'd still rank behind Tyreek Hill. There you go. Even if you combine DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, they're still the only second best wide receiver in all of fantasy.
I have these guys as wide receiver 3s. I would play DK more over Lockett. I think there's a
Actually,
better
there's
chance for him to
3
score
if you include
touchdown.
before the game Jefferson got hurt.
Just include JSN in there too, and they're still just close
Barely?
to Tyreek Hill.
All right, so in all seriousness,
concerned.
are you benching them?
I would play DK.
Here's one.
I try to think of what other options you have.
Same
Rasheed
game.
Rice is somebody I talked about, and I would play him over
Brandon
both.
Cooks versus DK Metcalf versus Tyler Lockett.
I would
I would
play
go-
Brandon Cooks over Lockett.
Lockett, I agree. Would you go Brandon Cooks? You just brought him up over Rasheed Rice? Rasheed Rice over Lockett and Rasheed Rice over DK Metcalf?
I would play Rasheed Rice over both of these guys. Yeah, I think certainly over Lockett if you want to play.
How about
DK,
Josh Downs?
I get it.
Over
Josh
both?
Downs, I would play over Lockett. I may
Both.
play DK there. Yeah, it's probably the correct answer. I mean, I really like seeing all those targets he got last week. He didn't catch a ton of them, but what we said, like Minshew throws the football to two people, basically. Steichen drew up a really nice play there to one of the tight ends that they have. But it's both. It's really just two guys, man. It's Pittman and it's Downs. I'm worried about Seattle. Like, this is a team that can go in and upset. They usually upset some squads. They hang around, but 8-point, 9-point dogs. Geno's not 100%. They don't have their starting running back. It's going to be another tough game for them.
Okay, well, we already hit on a lot of names that we were gonna talk about at wide receiver. Here's one though for you, Cooper Kupp. I already saw I have him at 19, barely inside my top 20. But this is Cooper Kupp. Like, we know he's not 100%, but what if he's closer this week? Stafford, before the injury, was going to him. He wasn't hitting every single game, but he was going to him more than Nakua still. So Kupp is at 19. He's behind Nakua for me. I have Nakua at 16.
That's fair. I
don't love it against Cleveland either, although Cleveland's been more beatable as of late, even in the run game, surprisingly. They're still dominant against the run, but they've been more beatable, at least in the run. But they've actually been somewhat beatable in the past. Yeah. Would you go Cooper Kupp at 19, or do you think, given all the concerns and the matchup, he should be lower? Like Christian Kirk, who's been solid. Josh Downs. What do you have, 12 or 13 targets last week?
Yeah, that's a ton of targets.
How far would you, is Cooper Kupp in a good spot, or would you slide him down?
No, I think it's fair. I was certainly wrong about him last week. I say that, but he definitely wasn't a decoy like we discussed on the Sirius show. He played, and he was in motion and running routes, even them being up 2 scores in the fourth quarter. So I was like, he's fine. He's battling through this. He got hurt. He re-hurt the ankle, I think, on the first or second play of the game on a pass, and I thought, maybe he's just going to sit this one out. They taped up his ankle, and he got back out there. He played, but you're right, he's not 100% mixed in with this matchup. I think it's fair where you have him. I have him as a wide receiver too as well. Okay. It's really tough to sit him given the upside. I would play Jamar Chase over him. I'm just looking ahead at guys and try to make a case for any of and all the guys that you have in front.
Look, I know we've said it a million times, and I'll say it again for everybody out there. I know this sounds like I'm trying not to make the answer, but it is truth. It's the same thing I've said time and again. If you can live with Cooper Kupp getting 20 on your bench because you felt like it was the right decision, and you're like, you know what, he got 20, this is what happens. I just couldn't risk it. I can't risk it having last week happen again. If you can live with that, do it. If you're going to see that 20 on your bench and be like, son of a, why did I ever question Cooper Kupp? Then don't do it. And it comes down to yours. And there's some leagues where if I don't have Cooper Kupp anywhere, because I somehow missed on him, even though we were high on him, and waiting. I think there's the weight and depending on who I was drafting at that point. I don't know. I just somehow didn't get Cooper Kupp anywhere. Point being, there are some leagues where I could look at it and be like, you know what? I was in on Nico Collins. I picked up Tank Dell and and I could look at it and be like, you know what? I don't have a team where I need to risk it. So I think you can make that case. Fair.
Yep.
2 more before questions. One isn't even a question for us. I'm just going to point this out. I said it on the waiver show, Meaney. This is the last chance. Last chance. 2 weeks ago, Thielen had a good game. But if Bryce Young and Adam Thielen can't do it this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who everybody in the I'm pretty sure you and I could throw about 20 yards against them. I mean, it might take 75 pass attempts to get there, and we might need Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, and somebody like AJ Green in the slot or something to get the 20 yards. It might take that, but we could do it against that Buccaneers defense. We would get there at some point. It should happen. Thielen, I'm okay having him as a wide receiver 2 this week, but here's the last one. He is ranked for me at 38. Should he be lower? Drake London against Sauce Gardner.
I don't want to.
I'm almost thinking about do they even try to pass in this game? Because you can run on the Jets, you can't throw on them. And who's Sauce Gardner going to go after? I know he doesn't follow, but I mean, you can't get Drake London away from him that much.
Right, and even Reed on the other side, if it's Reed that's on him, is pretty good. So I don't want to start him at all.
Curtis Samuel or Drake London.
I would play Curtis Samuel over him. I'm trying to see other guys behind him. I don't feel great about
Joshua Palmer. If he's back, I'm starting him. No question.
Joshua Palmer, yes.
He would be inside the top 30. I'm looking right now. Brandon Cooks, Tyler Lockett. I would play him over Lockett. So he'd probably be close to top 30. Would you go, if there is no Joshua Palmer for one more week, Jalen Guyton or Drake London?
I may just take London there. But even the other guys that you have, I can't even make a case for them. I can't make a case.
Tyler Boyd?
No.
Jake Browning might throw 200 yards?
Jerry Jeudy, definitely not. Elijah Moore, no. Watson. I might play Watson.
I told you the wide receiver was gross this week.
I'd probably play Watson over him because, man, he does have a couple scores. Like, I think he's got back-to-back games now with a touchdown. Even if it's just one or two catches, those seem to come inside the red zone.
Justin Watson, here you go. Justin Watson, Jalen Hyatt, just take the over on yards every single week because it takes 2 catches for them.
Hyatt's trending up. I'd like to see him getting some looks and targets. And another guy that I don't think I'm fully there, I want to see it one more week, is Jameson Williams is also trending up. I think there was back-to-back weeks where he played over 60% of the snaps, and then it went down. But I did see a couple targets for him on like a 2-minute drill. He may have been. Because
it went way down last week.
Yeah.
He was behind Khalif Raymond last week.
Yeah, he was. Khalif Raymond was... he had a really good game, and there was a good drive, I think, late in the third quarter where they just really went to him, and I think maybe they rode the hot hand there. But Jameson, I saw for the first time, it wasn't just, a 35, 40-yard deep shot for him. He actually found a way to give him a bubble screen and like a quick out route. So maybe he's trending up. Maybe it's worth a stash. We'll see.
Okay. Some questions before we get out of here.
Yeah.
That's my birthday gift to you. We're answering questions live on the show. Usually we don't get to these. We'll try to rapid fire some of these. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I see them. Nobody knows how old I am, and that's going to stay that way. Pick 2 to start. Mixon, Charbonnet, Singletary, Pacheco. Oh, that probably felt good at some point of the year. But Pacheco for sure.
Pacheco,
I go Pacheco and Charbonnet. I don't want to start Joe Mixon. I know as crazy as it sounds. Like I just.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Trash.
I'm with you. I thought about Singletary there for a second, but.
Oh no!
I'm gonna go with Charbonnet.
As soon as Damian,
you're out on Singletary.
I told you that last week. I told you it was done. Told you it was done. 3 from Kyron, Eckler, Pollard, and Mostert. I'm not even answering that question. Your team's too good, jerk.
Sit Eckler. Believe it or not.
It's the truth though.
Yeah, it is. Like, you're rolling, man. You got 4 backs. I would honestly sit Eckler. It's not an easy feeling, but. Yeah, and you can't sit Mostert either. This guy scores every game. Every game he's finding the end zone. I'm playing.
Mr. Nice Guy. I don't know why you have to choose between. Like, why is it Sam Howell and Dotson or Samuel and then Baker or Godwin? Why not Sam Howell and Godwin? Or Sam Howell and Samuel? Go with the Sams. Sam and Samuel.
Yeah, I agree.
Samuel
over Dotson.
I need a good Sammy, but I'm not going to have it for that.
I'm pretty hungry.
Yes, drop Rashawn Johnson for Tyler Algier. Do it. He's on a bye. And that's turning into
Foreman's
a full-blown
coming
committee.
back.
I know, that's a full-blown committee. Charbonnet versus Warren. We said Warren. That's easy there. I already know that. Here's a good question. Are you owning 2 defenses already? Yes, if I can. Because outside of like about 2 or 3, there's nobody else that you can really roll through the rest of the season. Do not do it at the sacrifice. Like I brought this up on the waiver show, Meaney. I'm not holding a second defense over Elijah Mitchell. This is the time. I said this on could you imagine if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt this week? I don't want to put that out there, but like Christian McCaffrey, Tajay Spears, Gainwell, your boy Zeke, if Stevenson gets hurt, just because we know that he's going to be the guy, Dowdle, like do not hold the second defense over those kind, because look at what just happened with Zach Moss.
I think even Jeff Wilson, I'd go as far as Dearness Johnson too. Like he seems to be the number 2, links to a really good offense. If anything happened to ETN, I mean, he's already getting touches anyways, so maybe ETN.
Would you put Jamal Williams on that list as bad as he's been this year?
Yeah, I think especially if I own Kamara. I think especially if I own Kamara, just in case, like to kind of cover your bases there. Yeah, you don't want to be. I mean, Elijah Mitchell could be a league winner. If CMC went down this week, he'd be a league winner. That's it.
Could you imagine? No. People will lose their minds. A.T. Perry or Chris Godwin? We kind of didn't get to that one. I still go Godwin.
Godwin has been disappointing, but I'm playing him. Yeah.
There's another one. He's eventually been the Michael Thomas, Demario Douglas, like all
he's
the
getting
old Jacoby Myers
looks too, but he's just not converting on any of them. So I'm playing him though. The volume seems to be there. Big game for the Bucs this week.
How about Samuel Pickens or Downs? Downs. I go Downs, Samuel Pickens. No. If I'm shooting for upside, I would go Downs, Pickens, Samuel. But if I'm going for floor, it'd be Downs, Samuel, Pickens. It just depends
you could talk me into Samuel number 2 over Pickens in a full point PPR league.
Brett said Watson is Gabe Davis. That is 100% true. That's what I was just saying the entire time. It's just like Gabe Davis. Like people
not even
hate
good
Gabe
enough
Davis
to be Gabe
this
Davis
year.
just yet, but
that is true. He's discount Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Discount Davis. Like, it's just Davis is like Gabe Davis. Like, this is the same thing we went through last year. If you drafted him, this is just who he is. This is not prime Deshaun Jackson. This is right after prime Deshaun Jackson, where you got 8 mediocre games, 4 really good ones, and then 4 big old stinkers. Like, you just got to keep them out there.
If he's your wide receiver 3, then whatever, right? Yeah, he's the highs and lows. He can win you a week, and you hope that the dud games, your top 2 wide receivers, the rest of your team has a decent floor. But yeah, he's hit or miss. Buffalo's going to have to figure out a wide receiver 2 next year. There'll be a lot of changes in Buffalo in the offseason.
Somebody likes your hoodie. It's trash. Burn it. We do not like the Eagles. Although I do like the Eagles letting me survive in Survivor. So there you go. Made me sweat it out. Made my stomach turn. Also,
told you we were going to
new hat, by
one
the way.
out.
I'm going to put my new hat on at some point that is not a Giants hat. I told you I'm done. So we're going to continue. A few more. Thank you, Rory. I'm actually going to see Rory tonight. He is in my married CG from church. So
nice.
Shout out to Rory. There you go.
Hey, Rory.
Would you go DeAndre Hopkins or Rashee Rice? I'm still going Hopkins.
I think I still have to go Hopkins too. But man, it's a talk about another boomer bust, right? The quarterback plays so bad, but I'll lean Nuke.
Okay. Oh, you know who's somebody we didn't talk about? Lorna has a big crush on him. Shakir, hips don't lie. How excited for you in these usage? You just made the same face I made. It's like
one catch. Did he have one catch?
Yeah, I love Shakir. I told the story about when I was at the combine. My heart goes out to the guy because nobody wanted to talk to him. And that immediately made me a fan of his, even though I already kind of liked him. In my pre-draft profile said he's a lesser version of Deebo Samuel because he can get work out of the backfield. They're not even using him as that, but they're using him in the passing game like Deebo Samuel. But here's the problem: the snaps, the targets, everything is third. It's just tough. He's not past Gabe. If the Bills finally said, you know what, we're done with Gabe Davis, you're going to be the third. You're going to be Nate Washington. Yeah. But at this point, I think Shakir is in the conversation of a Zay Jones.
Mm-hmm. He's may even be 4th because I've noticed more James Cook since Joe Brady's taken over, whether that's a few carries or just dump offs, a few catches. I know Lauren texts us and says she's going to have to change her tune about James Cook. I went to right back immediately. Well, he's not doing anything between the tackles, but he is catching passes. He's more involved since the OC switch. So I would say Shakir is maybe 4th behind Kincaid and company.
Yep, that's also true. You're not worried about Dawson Knox, are you? Coming back?
Nah.
I'm more worried about Zach Ertz than I am Dawson Knox because I'm worried about Zach Ertz taking snaps away to block, and it's just a snap issue. That's my only concern there.
That's a good call.
Look at this one. Singletary and Najee Harris coming for your boy. Singletary doesn't deserve to be in the conversation with Najee Harris right now.
I would play.
Okay. DeAndre Swift a fade because of the 49ers defense? No. DeAndre Swift has been fine this year. What's the hate for DeAndre Swift?
I don't know. I wish the Eagles would use him more. Back-to-back games,
they
hardly gave him any carries in the first half, and then all of a sudden it's opened up their entire offense. So, yeah, he can bust one on one.
Would you play would you play DeAndre Swift or Breece Hall?
Swift. Give me a link to a really good offense. Yeah, that's what it is.
I like Breece Hall, but yeah, I'm the same way.
They're not moving the ball.
And then I think we got kind of everybody. So at Chris Meaney, by the way, yeah, I think people are wondering about the Marvel stuff. I got Nicole. We're going back and watching stuff she's never seen. So we watched Hawkeye. Look, come for me all you want. Hawkeye's a fun show. People hate on it way too much. It's a fun Christmassy thing. You know what? For everybody that wants to say that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, which it's not, that's a Christmas show. Hawkeye's a Christmas show. I don't think it is. It's Christmas time. It's Christmas theme in the background. It's still Hawkeye. Nobody makes that argument, so there you go. If you say Die Hard, then you have to say Hawkeye. But still, fun show. It's not that serious. He actually makes him more likable, but, anyway. But now we're watching Daredevil, the TV series, because she never saw that. Still one of the best things. I just sat there and I was watching. We're 2 episodes, 3, 4, 5 episodes in. Yeah. I'm like, man, I forgot. I remembered how good it was, but I forgot, how good it was. It's just, one of the best things ever done. And that hallway fight scene, oh my gosh. I love being able to watch a show with somebody and you forgot a lot about it, so you're kind of getting refreshed.
And you get
but
refreshed,
also seeing somebody get to enjoy it for the first time too. But anyway, all that being said, at Chris Meaney, at Only Kid for myself, which as you know, and we will be back on Monday, hopefully for some wins. If you're around on Saturday or want to listen on demand, Sirius XM 9 to 11 a.m. in the morning. And that's it.
Should be a good one.
Oh, Joe Gambit, as we get out of here, the music, the opening theme for Daredevil, I have my new list for next week, my fun rankings, top 10 TV intros. Daredevil is inside the top 10. Daredevil is amazing. That's Game of Thrones, no, not Game of Thrones, Westworld stole their idea from Daredevil for their intro. That's all I have to say. So, anyway, Love you, Meaney.
Forward to
Thank
those
you for the
regs.
birthday wishes. Yeah.
Have a good day, brother. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Peace.
Get me out of here, Well.